make it feel great and summery. So I wanted to just start out a little bit by giving you some background on me, so you kind of know where I've come from, and where I now am, which is at Frog Design as what they call a senior design analyst, which is both a research role and an interaction design role. And also at Frog Design, I'm what they're calling a green expert lead. So I'm actually managing all the expert leads for the green initiative across the 9 studios that we have. So to give you a little bit of background, I just wanted to show you kind of a timeline. I think probably all of us could look back in time when we were little kids and find reasons for why we're here doing the things that we're doing now. And I certainly have plenty of them. And I won't spend time on each of these things, but I lived in Australia when I was about 8, and just the fascination of products, the things that were different that were there, was so fascinating to me, and I couldn't understand why they weren't in other countries. Like the half flush that they have on a toilet down in Australia was such a brilliant idea to me, because I don't need a full flush all the time. A half is plenty. And it really just kind of kept going into things. At age 11, anytime we went car camping, I would turn the back of our station wagon into its own little kitchen setup. So definitely just bits and pieces of growing up where I was trying to design a better situation for people, either a workflow or a product. Again, at age 14, I entered a science competition where I was looking into ways that you can conserve energy from your refrigerator. So could you have this additional sort of glass layer, because I knew that I would always open the refrigerator and stand there for 5 minutes trying to decide what to eat. So could it kind of have this double door system and not let all the cold air out? Kept going from there. I did ceramics and theater growing up, went on to do film and photography at university, and then eventually jumped right into the web, where I spent 9+ years working with nonprofits and foundations, developing websites for them. And during those 9 years, I got to work on a couple of projects that were about kind of measuring the impact, and this was fairly early on. The paper calculator is part of the Environmental Defense Fund, and they were looking for a way that you could kind of go through in an office situation and say, this is how much paper I use, this is the paper source that I use, can I compare it to these other ones, and kind of visually take a look at what my impact would be if I changed papers. So really it kind of brought me, after all of that web work, into this place where I really wanted to look at sustainable ways to bring a lot of these ideas all together to design, focused very much on sustainable design, but really just also looking across the cultures, because I feel like there's a lot of things that are going on around the world. If you look at a lot of different cultures, Europe certainly takes on a very different take to green, and I think they're leap years ahead of us. But I also think that there's things that we're doing here well that we can pass back to them. So that's part of my kind of personal goal, is finding ways to communicate those ideas. And so I found myself at Frog, which it sounds like all of you know what Frog is. Like I said, there's about 9 different studios now. The biggest change is that the San Francisco Bay Area used to have 3 studios, San Francisco, Palo Alto, and San Jose, which is where our modeling shop is. And just this week, actually, we combined the Palo Alto and the San Francisco studio into one space in San Francisco. But just to kind of take a look at some of the things that we're doing, so we do have a green initiative that kicked off just over a year ago. It was actually started by Valerie Casey, which some of you may know from the Designers Accord. She, along with the president, Doreen Lorenzo, had really got that initiative started, and then I came on and started managing all the different leads that we had established in the different studios. So we're involved in a lot of organizations to just be involved and trying to get those ideas exchanged. We're working with clients to try and help them think more sustainable about the products that they're developing, whether that's the materials that they're using, or perhaps taking something that was a product and turning it more into a digital service and kind of removing that physical product altogether. Excuse me. We also have just the sort of, our marketing has just been fantastic in the past year, and they're very keen on this initiative and really getting the word out with the Frog Design Mind newsletter. If you're not signed up for it, just to do a little bit of a plug, it's not all sustainable, it's actually just design in general. Each issue has a different topic, and it's it's really been quite a wonderful production. So looking at the initiative, this is from Doreen. And she's really hoping to create a movement as sort of designers as a whole. We have a responsibility to, we are the ones that are creating the stuff. So we really have a responsibility in the way that we think about how to design that. The other part of our initiative is looking kind of internally and making sure that as a company we're running what we do in a more green fashion. So we really kind of broke the initiative down into kind of internal activities, which is specifically about greening our studios. We're setting up certain goals that every studio has to meet, as well as some goals that just studio-specific initiatives. So an example of that one is the composting, which is very easy for the Bay Area to do because the city actually comes and does that for you. So we've started there with an initiative to see how that works within the company, how we can actually set that up and not have sort of molding food around the office all the time. And it's actually been working quite well, and so now we're looking into ways that some of the other studios can take that on as well. External activities is really just looking into frameworks that we can use with our clients, as well as just educating ourselves, because many of the industrial designers and the mechanical engineers have a vast knowledge of the materials that are out there, but sort of getting them to stop and think about how to do it a different way is a new challenge for us. So looking at some of the other internal activities, things that we've had in place for quite a while are incentives if you get a hybrid car or even just any sort of vehicle under a certain amount, miles per gallon. Some of the studios have loaner bikes, so if you travel to that studio, you have a bike that you can get to and from the hotel. Electronic pay stubs, paper energy reduction, the measurement, the waste measurement that we actually are looking into shutting down the San Francisco studio for like every month, shutting absolutely everything down at night so that we can kind of measure what that difference is to leaving the printers and the fax on. So those are some of the other initiatives we're putting into place. We also do, like I said, recycling, composting. We do lunch bag, brown bag lunches. So once a month, kind of a different topic, and we're sort of kicking those off with bike maintenance and composting in the San Francisco studio. So this is looking at the new San Francisco studio. And so part of the decision to bring everyone up from the Palo Alto office to San Francisco was to put it near all of the public transportation. So it's near the Caltrain, near all the BART and the bus systems, trying to kind of minimize the amount of cars being used to get to the studio. There's a huge bike storage area that's going to get built out a little bit more with like a workshop in there, so you can actually come in and fix your bike at the office. And as they were building out this space, we were trying to do it as close as we could to compliance, but sort of had to obviously make some of those concessions that you have to make for price points, which I think is often the challenge in going green. One of the biggest things I would say that we did in the studio to keep it green was to actually remove as little as possible from what was there. So really we tried to work within the space and not tear everything out and bring new materials. So then just looking at the external, I've talked about most of these. We're building a materials library out of our Milan studio, starting it there and then finding ways that we can share that across all the different studios. So Trash Talk started out of our Austin studio by Ashley, who's not pictured here. This is one of the other trash talkers. And basically it was 2 weeks of living without your trash can. Everything that you collected had to live sort of within a couple of feet of you. So most people had some little canvas bag that they carried around. And then they blogged about it for those 2 weeks so that you could really learn what their challenges were in doing this. Again, it became easier if you had composting, because then you could put your food there, and if you didn't, there were quite a few comments of, I realized how much I tried to eat everything that was on my plate, so the last thing I wanted was half a burrito carrying around in my bag for 2 weeks. So it was a really fascinating dive into how everyone worked. And one of the folks out of Austin created the widget that you see in the upper left, which kind of monitored the amount of trash you were collecting. Frogware is something that also started about a year ago, and it's an internal sort of research of green concepts. And these are the ones that came out last fall. Just very quickly, two of them that we actually have put out there. One is this light bulb, but we actually had quite a few people call after they saw it in the magazine asking where they could buy it from, which the idea here is this is where we could go with things, but no one is manufacturing this yet. It gives all of our designers a nice chance as well to kind of step away from having that client that you're responsible for and just think high and big and blue sky. This is the other one that got put out, which was a green cell phone for the everyday consumer, and it did everything from have the trash talk widget on there to having a sensor on it that would let you know sort of whether your food was bad or sort of just safety information about the food. Just very quickly, a couple of the projects that we're working on now. This one is called HP Halo. It's for Hewlett Packard, and the idea here is to get people away from having to travel so much. So it is this very sort of centralized center. You can actually see it better on this photo here. Those are the three different monitors in the back there of the other people who are joining the meeting from teleconferencing. So this is a work in progress. We just finished up some branding work for Coca-Cola out of the Austin office. And they had wanted to rebrand all of the icons that they used on their packaging in time for the Olympics to show really kind of where they are in terms of the sustainability process. And so there's more to show than these ones here. These are just a couple that you'll see those rolling out pretty soon. And the idea there was to just make it really clear on the packaging what they stood for and what they were doing. So really at Frog, this is the way that we've been thinking about it, is that it's really about responsible design. That's kind of the overarching umbrella. And right now, or sort of in the past, our focus has been our responsibility to the clients to get design for them what they're looking for, and our responsibility to those who are actually going to use the product. And we're starting to think about that as a bigger picture of accountable to society as a whole and to the environment. So again, kind of looking at the way that we have been seeing it, we have mechanical engineers, the user interface, and the design research are sort of these tracks. And we're really just kind of seeing sustainability as yet another element within that. It won't be so unique, just something we think about every day. So this was just another way to think about it, is looking at kind of the lifespan of where we're coming and where we're going. So we're getting to this place where the products that are considered green have always been, oh, that's kind of weird, to, hey, I want one of those, that's kind of cool. So that's a lot of what we're doing. There's plenty of other projects that aren't in here. I just wanted to give you a sense of some of those. It's been a really great initiative to work across all these different studios and hear from sort of Germany and Milan and New York what everyone is working on. So hopefully I'll get to tell you more about that during the discussion.